Hello, Sotakers! Welcome to one more episode. I'm really happy to be here with my friend Arpi for the very first episode in English. I'm so happy for that because it is a project that I longed to do, and it's not only the first but also with one of my favorite people in Los Angeles. Arpi Alexanian, she is in my life for more than 5 years. And we have a book club, and it is because of her that I have a book club, that we enjoy books together. And she is an art director. She has worked in so many beautiful projects that you probably have seen on TV and ads. She also is one of the directors responsible for the beautiful designs in Masterclass. Arpi, she's also working on her personal art, what we're gonna talk a lot about today. And if that's not enough, she's also a mom of a little boy. He's so cute. Very, very welcome today here. I'm so happy. And I couldn't start better because I feel comfortable with you. And we do that so much. The only difference is that we have mics on. So I'm really, really happy.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you and to be your first English-speaking guest. So thank you.
Of course, it had to be you. And I have a question that you might not know that I asked here at the consultaki, and consultaki means with an accent. And so I like to ask, where is your accent from?
Yeah, well, I was born in Armenia, in Yerevan, Armenia. So sometimes I wonder, I'm like, do I have an accent? But if I do, it's from there. Sometimes it might come out in words, like in random words. I did grow up here, but every now and then I'll say something and it'll have like that really like strong accent.
True. Yeah, because everybody who talks to me and I say, oh, I live in LA and now I live in the Valley. And they say, oh, but please, you didn't get the accent from there. like.
I definitely have the LA accent.
Yes, but I don't think you have the details from people from LA, like who, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to explain, but you know those details. So probably one of the reasons that I love you so much. You're very natural. You don't have that intensity.
Well, thank you.
And I believe one of the things that bring us very, very close is because we are both immigrants.
Yeah.
In different ways.
Yeah.
But we do share that similarity. Do you remember how it happened? I know, and I will add that she came to LA when she was little.
Yeah.
Do you recall like how that happened or?
Yeah. I was five years old. And I remember
so little.
I remember like a lot of sadness with that memory and a lot of like positivity and excitement. The sadness like coming from like the moments like when we were saying goodbye to the family. Like I remember like saying goodbye to my aunts and like, you know, the hugs. And I remember like a train. I think we took a train from Yerevan to Moscow. Totally like a little blurry there, but so I remember a lot of that, like the moment of goodbye and there being like some grief and sadness with that. But then I also remember like the moment like we arrived, this like overwhelming sense of positivity and like excitement and, you know, wow, like this is gonna be new. This is gonna be different. This is gonna be good.
And it was your mom, your dad, you have siblings.
So my mom, my dad, myself and my 2 sisters, and then my grandma and my aunt.
Okay. So you guys had to say goodbye to who were there. The family is big and you had like Sundays meetings. I'm saying that because in Brazil we had that big families with great connections. I mean, I don't know if we're great when we are kids, you have that idea that it is great. But even though with problems, you are always together and always having lunch at the grandma's on Sunday.
Totally.
So you remember something like that.
Yeah, I remember like a lot of memories like that around family. And, you know, my grandma, she lived with us, so she helped raise us. And then her sister would also like essentially like she helped raise us too. She would always be there. And then one of my dad's other sisters and her kids and the cousins from that side. So I remember like that was those were the closest relatives that we had to say goodbye to, mostly from my dad's side. But everybody from my mom's side was already here, which made things easier. And
because you weren't going to come and be just yourselves.
Yeah.
Do you know if they helped? Like, come live in this neighborhood? There are houses
100%. 100%. So how we came here is, so at that time, Armenia was like a part of the Soviet Union. So it was like communist. And
was the 80s?
It was 80s, early 90s. So I think we came here in 90. And so what had happened is my uncle, my mom's youngest brother or only brother, he had come here. And then at that time, if you have somebody here, they can kind of essentially call the family just relatives. And that's what happened. So he kind of came here and he like set the base, and then we all started trickling in. But then after that, it closed. I was just talking to my mom and she's like, yeah, after us, like we got so lucky because after us, that was it.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons that the neighborhood in Glendale for Armenians is so heavy, so intense. Yeah. The culture and the food over there is really related to Mediterranean food, my favorite.
Yes. My favorite. Yeah, I think specifically in Glendale, there was a huge influx of Armenians in the 90s. And then I think the older generations maybe came maybe in the 70s, 80s. They concentrated more around the Hollywood area, which is like called Little Armenia now. So you'll see like a lot of restaurants and businesses there as well. Yeah.
And do you remember growing up watching your mom complain or tell you stories from Armenia? Did she wish to go back, or was she really strong and wanted you girls to, because you are three sisters?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like, not to get emotional, but like the ultimate sacrifice, you know, to bring us here. And yeah. So I think that was the motivation for our future.
Yes. Yes. It is so beautiful. Because I've shared here at the podcast so many times how hard it was.
Yeah.
But it was a choice. When it is not,
right,
there is more over there, because maybe you wouldn't have left if you didn't have to. And do you know, like, the opportunities were little, money was?
I think it was kind of a time where people were sensing the end of the Soviet Union. Something was going to happen. Things were going to go south. And we kind of came at a really good time, because right afterwards, the country, like, there was a war, and it was really sad, difficult time. So I'll talk to like friends that tell me stories from that era, and I'm like, wow. And it was around food and like, you know, everything, like not having safety and not having necessities and
safety and necessities.
Yeah.
And is Armenia already recovered?
Wow. Like, I mean, we just went through, you know, the other war recently, which was really devastating. But I mean, right now it's, well, you know, whenever I've visited, I think the last time we went was maybe in 2022. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Mhm.
It's like a European city, and
Yeah.
it's very vibrant, very active, very safe. I love visiting.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Amazing. Yes, it's so interesting. And I usually say that it is the people that makes the country. And for sure, it is one of the reasons that it still is a vibrant place. I read Malala, a biography, and she talks with so much care as well about Pakistan, and how sad she feels that she had to leave because there was a community there. And I think this is what, when we leave, we miss the most. It is the community that makes the place.
Yeah.
And even though you try to recreate that when you move, it's not the same. And you are a person who likes to go back there. You did some works over there as well.
Yeah.
Because you have that. Your mom probably gave you that love for your people, for the people you
Definitely.
are, where you came from.
Definitely. It's interesting because, you know, and this is something I explore a lot in my art as well, is like, I don't really fully, when I'm there, I don't really fully feel that I'm from there.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a, it's very interesting.
Yes, but that's not only with you.
Yeah.
Even us, because I mean, us, when we move for a short time and you have been here your entire life.
Yeah.
For me, it has been 10 years, but when it was only 3, when I moved, when I visited Brazil,
Right.
it was like, I'm not from here anymore. Like, people already starting to say, oh, you are so Americanized. It's sad. But there is this effect, like you kind of don't belong really fully to both places.
Exactly.
Yes, and that happens to you too. I wouldn't expect
100%.
that answer. Okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think, like, I always say, like, I think I'm from LA. You know what I mean? I'm an Angelino.
Yes.
And because I think this is the place where everybody is, or so many people are kind of experiencing that, like, middle ground, you know, of being like from somewhere. I don't know. It's interesting. It's just this hybrid model.
It's so wrong to say that people are from one place. We are, because we were born there.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to observe culture from other places that sometimes you don't even need to leave a country to do that, to start accepting other cultures. In Brazil, I've heard about groups, young teenagers, that they needed K-pop to fight against depression, to find a reason to leave. And it's so amazing. They haven't been to Korea, South Korea, but they still connect to that culture. So it doesn't matter where you are. And LA is so vibrant because of that. We're going to get there about living in LA.
Yeah.
But since we talked about you going back to Armenia and also having this relationship with the country, and especially because your mom, I never met her, or maybe I didn't have a chance to talk to her. She seems very special and strong. As your grandma, a name that you share with. I don't forget that. And do you have any memories from you growing up here, and sharing, I don't know, something that is cultured, you know?
Yeah.
Armenian culture.
I have a lot of memories. I have a lot of good memories. You know, it's interesting because right now my son is the same age that I was when I came here. So it's been interesting, like, navigating being a mom and kind of like connecting, you know, my younger self to like him. And then it's like bringing up a lot of memories of, you know, being in school and stuff like that. And something I think about often is, wow, like how different it is for me as like being established already in this country, like knowing, you know, how things function, how things work, having grown up here, gone through like the education system and all of that stuff, versus like how it must have been for my mom, like not figuring it out, or for my parents, like figuring it out,
Yes.
trying to understand, like,
everything.
yeah, and I like
Yes,
go
health
through-
insurance, schools,
Yeah.
but how you buy everything that the kids need.
Yeah.
Those are questions that I do have.
Yeah.
And they didn't have internet. I think that's the very
Yes.
important part.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm curious. I just go Google, hey,
Yes.
and now ChatGPT can tell me how things work in the US. But they
Yeah.
didn't have that.
They-
They had to
yeah.
count on the community.
The community. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
But
And
as far as memories go, it's like a very like all the family gatherings and the grandparents and the food and a lot of special moments. And it's interesting having grown up in Glendale because I feel like everybody, maybe in my friend group or everybody that I was in school with, they were all kind of part of the same group of people that came and similar experiences. So there was this kind of like understanding. It didn't feel like I was, a fish out of water.
yes, that's good.
There was familiarity.
Okay.
Which
Even
was
with
nice.
people who were here already.
I think like the school, I was remembering, like thinking of this today, the school that I was in, the people I was around, it was all either
Immigrants
Latinos,
yeah, okay.
Latino immigrants or Armenian immigrants, and
Or
we were all the
descendants.
same.
Okay.
It was all
first generation.
yeah.
Studying and everything.
Maybe
Fine.
not everybody, but just the majority at that time.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So that helped.
Yeah, it really did.
I can imagine. And saying that this culture, how you would say, or how did you realize that the qualities from another nationality molded you, or that you observed that you had those qualities from another nationality?
Yeah.
Because your parents, they were from there. I can imagine me teaching some things that are non-American because it's how I observed.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand
Yes.
the question. So how did me observing things from the Armenian culture in
You saw that
Glendale
it was
like shape me or help?
shaped you, or you saw that quality that I have, it is because
Right.
Armenian culture.
Yeah. I think it's and I think this isn't just relate to Armenians, but people in general, but I think just the love and for family, respect for the elders, that's something that was kind of always like implemented in me. Hard work, and
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, hard work makes sense. I love that.
And the arts too, really, like I think it was something that was kind of really encouraged. I think there's like a big cultural aspect of that too. It was something, at least in my family, I don't know if it's
How
as
you mean?
broad. Like talking about like Armenian artists or literature, things like that, I think was
They always showed you,
Yeah.
you saw books around.
books. My dad is a cellist, so we would always go to like see his like concerts, and I think a lot of like he would perform Armenian pieces and things like that. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's new.
Yeah. Oh, and then I went to my parents took me to an art school, which was very, very great when I was maybe around 10 years old. And I think that really helped like shape
For
my
sure.
future.
I like that. And do you think that they saw in you this artistic side since you were little?
Yeah. There's apparently when I was maybe like 2 or 3, I went into my dad's paints and I ate his watercolors. And there was like paint And my parents say that after that moment, they were like, you were destined to be an artist. I was like, okay.
And because you ate the
Yeah, you can look at that from multiple angles, and I'm happy they chose that one. Yeah.
It's so much. Well, my parents could have seen my sister being an artist because when she was, I don't know, 6 or 8, something like that, there was like a long corridor where the cars would be parked inside the house. And then my sister got like a chalk, but the other one,
Pastel.
and then she draw the entire wall. Like, and her drawings were like big heads because she had all this space.
Oh,
But it wasn't good for her. She didn't end up like becoming an artist. Maybe. But my family doesn't have these genes, so they saw, oh my god, another child mess. But yeah, they left it there for a really long time.
That's awesome.
Maybe for her to never forget what she did. But it was funny. So I love that your parents saw you with potential. I think this is really special. So you were in the art school when you were 10.
Yeah, I started there when I was 10, and it was under, I think it was a very well-known Armenian artist that had also moved here, and he opened up like an art school at Tanyan's Art Center. So yeah, a lot of my childhood memories from like 10 to, or teenager memories like 10 to 17, 16, 17 was like very focused around being there. Yeah.
And then when you went to high school, was it easy to pick art as your major?
Yeah. Yes, I did. And I had some really great teachers that really supported me. But speaking of teachers, I think one of the reasons that I did, now I'm remembering, I did start art school is because I had a 4th grade art teacher. Not an art teacher, regular teacher, Mrs. MP. I still remember her name. She had us do like projects where it's like draw like a self-portrait. And with pastels, with oil pastels, and I remember it so clearly. And we did that project, and then somehow she was like very impressed by my, drawing, and she called my mom in specifically to meet with her to tell her like, oh, you need to take her to art lessons. It's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, and I think
and it's so true. When the teacher pays attention to a child, it can change really a lot.
The trajectory of their life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy that you had that lucky.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And then you went to Art Center, as you
Yes.
mentioned. Can you explain a little bit for people who is not from LA or is not familiar to Art Center, what kind of work you learn to do there? It is very related to paintings, or it's varied?
Yeah. So at that time, it was when I first started, everything was about foundations, like classical painting, all of that, like foundational stuff.
Okay.
Probably the first 3 semesters, if I'm remembering correctly, it was all very foundational, which was great. And then after that, it was kind of more specialized.
But you could pick your specialization?
Yeah. So
you had to do some specific ones, even though you didn't like or weren't interested in.
Yeah. So I focused on illustration. That was my major. But I ended up taking a lot of like motion graphics classes and kind of going the motion graphics route with a lot of the graphic design students, and that was a great decision.
Did you know when you applied for Art Center that graphics or what you had the interest in?
I think it was kind of like somewhere between that and entertainment.
Okay.
And then I ended up with motion graphics because I really like the illustration aspect, or like the ability to kind of bring your own style or your own character into it. And it just, also seemed like more practical at the time. You know, I was like, I can probably get a job with this. This sounds like a good idea.
This is something very important also, because every time we think about arts, you say, oh, poor person, she won't be able to find job, or she or him will need to move from another country who gives more value to art, or whatever it is. But my husband's always also from the same area, and he also liked graphics a lot. And it was lucky that it was a moment where motion graphic came for him, especially because he likes animation. And then the industry, title sequence.
Right.
And then everything was growing so much.
Yeah.
So do you feel that helped, and it was a lucky moment as well?
I think so. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I would say as well. But there was a special class for graphics?
Yeah, there was kind of a
cool
set of classes.
Perfect. And you went for illustration.
Illustration.
Yes. Just a little explanation. Illustration and just graphics, or digital graphics, or for motion.
Yeah.
There is a little difference. There isn't.
Specifically for motion graphic.
Yes, for the area that you worked the most. Because for me, who is not an artist, illustration is something more organic.
Yeah.
And graphics, not so much. Seems like you need to follow more rules to go there. And so I just want for them who are listening to us and have no idea what we are talking about, just to get an idea of what you do. And what you like mostly.
I think it really depends on the project. You know, sometimes I've done projects that are solely like illustration based.
Yes.
That are later animated, and they tell a story through the illustrations. And I've done projects that are like purely graphic, typography based, or, you know, very so I guess it depends on the need of the project, or, you know, what you know, trying to understand what would be the best fit, or what would be the best like visual for that specifically. But yeah, I guess like illustration, it's such a broad range of things you can do with it outside of motion graphics. You can do print, which I'm not exactly sure is probably kind of going away, but still, you know, illustrations for magazines and things like that, or it's pretty.
I love illustrations. And she is the one who did the consultaki. I love that. Okay. Do you feel it changed, or you veered to another direction when you were studying? I know that I asked you, and like you went there and you seemed very sure that graphics were something that you were interested. But did any time you saw yourself, you know what, I'll go south?
Yeah, I think school for me was all about experimentation and doing different things to kind of help understand exactly what I want to do. And I even did take like a few entertainment design classes, which in hindsight was great, because it kind of gave me a knowledge of kind of a different area that I can apply to my work.
Yeah.
Whether through my illustration work or my animation work. It was all about experimenting. It was all about learning, trying to understand. It kind of all ended up concentrating around motion graphics. But none of it seemed necessarily like a waste, or I feel like everything, even if the class had nothing to do with what I'm doing now, it was still
experience.
Amazing.
Yes. And colleges for that as well, to try things that you might not end up doing, but you had that contact, you had the chance to do something you really liked, but you
Right.
know it's not the path you're gonna take.
Yeah.
And I like that. I remember for me, the first and last year of law school were my favorites, and they are the least related to law. So it was so funny to see that Daniel shares the same thing. Like the classes he liked the most were related to arts or graphics or anything that he does nowadays. But I'm pretty sure like anthropology and things like that really has a big impact on how we're gonna express what we think. For law, how you're gonna behave as a judge or a lawyer, because it depends on your values. And I think our majors are very related in a way. Of course, I ended up coming to one part of art or journalism that is so human, that you need to understand all that past that we come from, and being able to be aware of the time that we live in and being concerned about the people around us. So definitely it is something that it's not connected, obviously, but it is in our unconscious.
100%,
so
100%.
And do you have any favorite work from your entire career?
That's really...
I know it's hard to pick a favorite. Just like, what is your favorite book? Oh, come on. I will never have one. But maybe you have one that you are attached to, or because whatever reason you say, this one comes to my mind.
Yeah, there are a few. And they're usually around projects with like meaning, you know? But yeah, and I feel really blessed. I've worked on a lot of great projects. But I think my favorite, like when I think about, what was your project? It's always like usually around the people that I worked with or the people that I met.
Makes so
you know, that made the project successful. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, like I've made some great friends, you know? It's been that's been kind of the most, it's not like the one project, but I guess the experiences surrounding the people that I got to work with and be friends with. And I think that's my ultimate project that I'm most proud of.
Got it. And so you wouldn't name any. You would say it is what you got from being there every day, working late nights, and all that, being so close to the group.
Building friendships, building relationships, and then some great projects. Like, you know, I worked on so many great ones at State, like the Tupac one. I think Concordia University was one of my favorites because it felt really close to my heart. There's a lot. I don't know.
Love it. I love that. And we live in Los Angeles. Which is, I want to describe a little bit and give my perspective. When I first came here just to visit Daniel, I didn't expect anything. And especially because I heard that it was my first time coming to the US. And I always heard the US is only for vacation and eatings and buying stuff for products. And I was, this is so vague. I don't want to go. But then I was here and I wanted to visit. So I did buy a book showing the nice places to go. And there were museums. I was, okay, I love going to museums, so I will find out. So I think I was a totally different tourist in Los Angeles that I loved going to downtown, which is not a favorite. The ocean wasn't the ones that I got more attracted to. And the history of LA, it's pretty amazing. And then I moved here because I liked the city. Not only because my boyfriend was here, because this is a big reason for you to want to move to a place, but also I saw that I could grow here as a person
Yeah.
and learn a lot. And so living here, visiting other neighborhoods. So if you go to downtown and then you
Yeah.
go to Santa Monica and then you go to Silver Lake and then you go to Glendale and Mid-City, you will seem to find yourself in different cities. And the design of the spaces and the drawings you see everywhere,
Yeah.
it is unique.
Yeah.
I don't love the city in every sense. But other than that, you have mountains and you have the ocean, you have everything in desert, everything you need. And you taught me that the food here is good.
Yes, it's
and a good price. And I started to value it.
Yeah.
So this is the city we live in. From my perspective, we might share the same aspects. But you are an artist.
Yeah.
And does it have an impact on you
Oh.
too? Does it inspire you? I know that you like to travel, but I have a feeling that if you didn't have that chance, you also would be able to have a little bit of what we have in other countries.
So true. I never thought of it that way. Like if I wasn't able to travel, I can do it right here, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel really blessed to be here. I think there's a lot of beauty here. There's also a lot of, you know, it's a little rough around the edges. But that's one of the things that I love is like the ability to this like little cultures throughout the city that have preserved themselves. And it's just so diverse. There's such a, it's diverse, it's different, but there's like kind of an overarching common ground to the people here. And
You mean because we are open to talk, to share?
I think it's that, but also the fact that I think it's made up of so many immigrants. And it's kind of, there's like that kind of connects us, right?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I never felt not welcomed in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many other stories in other states that people weren't welcome. They either heard about the accent,
Yeah.
or like, go back to your country. And since I never heard, I don't know exactly how to explain what that is.
Yeah.
But I kind of have an idea that it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because something brought you here.
Yeah.
And why to be treated like that? Because you are exactly the same as the others.
Right.
But LA, I never met anybody that complained about this aspect.
Yeah.
And honestly, Daniel and I, we love to give credit because everybody tries to understand your English.
Yes.
Everybody says that it's amazing that we already know another language.
Yeah.
So it is more like you are doing what you have to do, and this is special.
Yeah.
So it's not wrong when they say that California, or at least Southern California, is a sanctuary for immigrants. Because I've always been helped.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went when I needed. Even when I didn't ask for help, they were, oh, you would like help? Okay. I will accept that if I need. So, and also never felt fear or things like that other areas you might feel, and not only in the US. I'm pretty sure also in Brazil, Bolivians or because Venezuelans, they go to Brazil, they might feel fear because it's not, Brazilians are welcoming, but not to everybody. It's quite hard to generalize. So I'm pretty sure they also probably have felt that way before. And LA is different, at least for that. There are other problems. And we can talk another moment. Today is special. We are more into arts. So what do you consider to be your hobby? Just changing a little bit our...
maybe more recently I got into painting again, which has been really nice. Painting, doing like little sculptures and things like that. It's been nice because it's kind of forced me to move away from the screen a little bit. And I didn't realize like how much I needed that or I missed that until I started doing it, you know?
But how did you notice you were missing it? Like just the fact of being by yourself and...
I was at my parents' house once, and my dad, who's also an artist, he had this old little easel, and I used to paint maybe up until I went to art center. It's like, and then it's hilarious. I think for years after that, I didn't, and I was just, I guess, focused on work and stuff. But my dad gave me an old little easel, like a folding easel, and he's like, "Do you want it?" I'm like, "Sure." Why not? And it had some paints in there and stuff. And then he also gave me a canvas. This was maybe a couple of years ago that he had. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna use this. Take it." I was like, "Cool." So I was like, I'll just like play around. And it kind of started there, and then
playing with colors and shapes.
I'm essentially doing what I do digitally, but trying to. Except like it's funny because sometimes I'll be like painting, and then my hand is so used to like the undo, like, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I can't. I have to do this the old way, you know.
So cool.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
You're so... like your muscles.
It's like, I don't like the way, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's nothing there.
I love
but it kind of started like that. And then I was like, well, I want to, and I started freelancing this last couple of years, which has been great because it allowed me more time to spend with my son, but also kind of, when I have time, work on my own projects. So that's kind of how it started. I had more time, so I started.
And it is only paintings, or you do also something else?
So I was really into working with clay. So I did a couple of pieces with clay, and I took a little break, and I started painting. But I want to get back into working with clay because it's just a whole other three-dimensional. I love it. So
and you won't exclude anyone. If what you feel, you go with the flow.
It's interesting because now, like after working for, I don't know, this like throughout my career, I'm so organized. Like everything, like in my workflow, my process for work, I'm very like everything. I have my lists, so I noticed myself like kind of bringing that into my art a little bit. So it's not like I need to have a plan. You know, I'm like, what are we going to make? It's not...
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's such a different workflow
it's
than
not
what
inspirational.
I did. It is, but I treat it more like I would a work project. You know?
Like that.
Yeah.
I wish I was more like this. I am more like, what I'm feeling, writing, reading, talking. But I like that you have a plan.
Yeah.
So when you plan, okay, go ahead.
Oh, and I have to be flexible because sometimes I'm like, okay, we're going to get, this is my deadline to finish this. And then I get a project. So of course I'm going to work on the project and then I'll get back to.
But are you okay to leaving a project unfinished?
Oops. Yes. That's good. Yes. I do, but I always try to go back to it. That's a struggle. But yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's healthy.
Yeah.
I would think it is really intense if you need to start as you planned and finish by the time you want.
Yeah.
Because you might change your mind, and when you come back to your painting, I think that color might work better. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it.
Yes. 100%. But sometimes it's like you don't want to miss that wave
Yeah.
of inspiration because then you're like,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance, at least for me. Yeah.
But I would bet that it didn't happen that many times that you left a project unfinished.
No, there are a lot of like projects that I have. And then this isn't necessarily even with painting, but just like things that I want to do. That it's always kind of in the back of my mind or on a list somewhere in one of my notebooks that I have to. This is something I need to work on or do at some point.
I love it.
Time on Earth. So yes,
I love it. And what? So now let's go into what you're working now presently, and that you might go for it as a career, or show somewhere. So, what has come to your mind as your personal work?
Yeah.
What do you want to develop for yourself as an artist in terms of there's a name, right, for this kind of work when it's paintings,
like visual
artist. Okay, for visual arts.
Yeah, so I'm still, of course, taking on my projects for work, and in my free time I'm working on a series which is kind of in line with what we're talking about today, a series of paintings about being two cultures or part of two things and not really feeling part of one or the other wholeheartedly, but being in this like in between place. So it's a series of paintings that I'm working on based on that my Armenian culture, my American or Californian Angelino culture.
Love it.
Yeah.
And do you feel that it's something like you will not let it go?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that one is, it's like, that one I'm like, being a project manager. Like,
it is for me probably like the podcast, even though I leave it for a while, I always come back because I have that intensity in me that I just need to make it. Doesn't matter where it goes. I just need to make it. I wish it was more like this in other parts of my life. Doesn't matter where to go because I'm so moved by results.
Yeah.
And at the end, I'm afraid of the results that I ended up not doing.
100%.
And so, but the podcast, it is such a good thing for me that even though I stop, I come back every time. But last year I did good. I didn't stop.
Yes.
I will do that too.
Yes.
What inspires you?
Let's see, nature, people, traveling. It's I think those are kind of, and of course my son.
Yeah.
He's like,
would imagine.
Yeah, he's amazing.
We were seeing his Japanese drawing, like exercises from his learning Japanese in school. And it's so amazing how they see things different from us and like what a color brings up to their head. Have you done anything, even if it's a small drawings, based on something he showed you?
I haven't, but he's so good. He's so talented, and I know he's like my 5-year-old son, so I'm like, but I love like seeing his drawings. I don't know. It's just like it's really inspiring.
I imagine.
And we were talking kind of about drawing on walls. He has like a little wall space in my office where I just like let him go. Kind of wild. It's like the one place in the house that he can just like, doodle. And it's been like, from like when he was 1, they're just scribbles. And then more recently, he did like a little drawing of the two of us together. It was Yes.
She will play with you later, okay? So we are getting to the end of our conversation, and my last question for you is: do you have three or just one women names that inspires you, that they work you admire and like you follow?
Yeah, there are so many women in general that inspire me, but specifically with art, I think I've been like really inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe's paintings. She's an American artist. She focuses a lot around nature and then also like folk art. So any of the places I've been, and it's like you see these like little embroideries or dolls, like these handmade things, usually made by women, and you come across it at everywhere in the world. That's always, I have a little collection.
I will put in the link some information about her also, so someone can just click on the link and see the art.
Sure.
Would be really nice. I love that. I never heard about her, so it will be a good lesson for me too. I love it. And we have been to a museum together. I really do want to do again.
Yes.
So we can learn more. And I've been to the Asian Pacific Museum.
Yeah.
And it is a lot of women, and it is run by a woman, and it was founded by a woman. So
I didn't know that.
it is really cool.
That's awesome.
And to really end, I have one last question. It is related to the accent again, but it's more about yourself. So the question says accent, but it is, and I like to explain, it is like about you. What places do you still want to visit? What you still want to observe for you as a person, as Arpin, who wants to whatever you is looking for. It can be in your personal life. It can be on professional life. It's up to you. So I ask, what you still need for your accent, so you can understand it, what you still need for you. So Arpi, my question is, what your accent still needs?
Yeah, I think it's like lifelong journey, seeking growth, learning, connecting with people, and creating. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. But I want you to be more exotic. Or more, I don't know, go further than that.
Yeah. I don't know. I got stuck.
That is my goal. I love to ask again because we are not used to challenge our answers or our desires to really make sure if that's what we want. But you won't get away with that. You would have to tell me something more, like what RP needs, or which country you still need to go, or would you like to learn another language, practice something. So RP, be more exotic.
To be, I guess, more specific in terms of like goals and things that I want to see and do. I've always wanted to live in a different country.
Country.
For maybe like a couple years, maybe 1 or 2 years. I'm not exactly sure which one that's gonna be.
I was going to ask.
That's something because I feel like even though the story that we just like talked about, it is kind of like a little uncomfortable, but I've always felt like I've been in a bit of a comfort zone here that I've never left, which you probably as an adult coming here did experience. But I feel pretty like sheltered in a lot of ways. I know I like go places and I like to travel, but like I'd want to know what it's like to struggle a little bit in that way. I feel like it'll make me better or stronger.
I love that answer. And you mean struggle by because you think it is all too easy and you want some just comfort, but for growing, or because you don't deserve that much lucky that you have had?
Oh, it's a really good question. I think it's more about growth, and I think maybe struggle is not the best word. Maybe challenge is the better word.
Okay.
Yeah. More challenge.
I like
and
it.
more growth.
Yes.
Just to be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. I love it, because then we leave a message that we don't need to struggle or to have difficulty in life to deserve what we have.
Yeah.
So I like that. Sometimes I felt that I didn't deserve things.
Yeah.
And I should be doing more difficult stuff, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Going through hardest times. And I think we need just to embrace what we have, what we got for a reason. That's what we deserve. And not only deserve, it's what we can handle as well.
Yeah.
And we can be happy and move on from that. So I like that's a beautiful message that we can leave, that what we got, it's what we worked for and what we can go with. Yes. Definitely. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there something else that you would like to add here for the ones listening to us now or in the future?
Yeah, no, just thank you for having me. I feel really grateful to be here and to talk about all the things that we talked about, and it was so much fun. And
I love it. Yes. It was really fun too. I'm really glad. Thank you for being my friend, first of all.
Yes, thank you. I love our friendship, and I love and I love you. And,
I love you too. And for being here, for sharing so much, for being open and vulnerable as well. I think your story is beautiful and definitely shows a lot of strength. Never forget that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I need a hug. Thank you for listening to Com Sotaque. This was our very first in English episode. I hope you have enjoyed. Please give us a thumbs up, follow, subscribe, and see you next episode. Bye!